Unit 5. The environmental issue. Environmental policy in the making. Up to the early 20th century, the American government focused its efforts on domestic and international issues rather than environmental ones. It neglected major issues such as climate change, air and water pollution, as well as energy production. Climate change is a human-induced phenomenon that leads to an alteration of weather patterns, resulting in an increase of the temperature of the Earth's atmosphere. On April 22, 1970, however, the US celebrated its first National Earth Day, which was described by some as the Big Bang of American environmental politics. The same year, because of public demand, the Nixon administration created the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, to coordinate and oversee a coherent environmental policy at the federal level. Several major environmental laws, such as the Clean Air Act of 1970, the Endangered Species Act of 1973, the Safe Drinking Water Act of 1974, the Toxic Substances Control Act of 1976, and the Federal Land Policy and Management Act of 1976 were passed in the same decade. Thanks to this new agency, the nation had a statutory and regulatory framework that aimed at protecting the environment and the health of Americans. In the following decades, governmental efforts at protecting the environment did not gain much traction. However, in 2006, the Global Warming Solutions Act was passed in California. The aim of the program was to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, GHGs. The list of those greenhouse gases is the same as the one of the 1997 Kyoto Protocol. When Barack Obama reached the highest office, expectations for racial, social, and environmental reforms were high. The Obama administration favored an activist government when it attacked the unequal distribution of wealth and social welfare. Its efforts targeting environmental objectives were not as expected, but the administration was not completely inactive either. In 2010, the EPA, I quote, began tracking for the first time the carbon dioxide emissions of large industrial polluters, end quote. When the 2009 American Recovery and Reinvestment Act was passed, the Obama administration spent $100 billion in tax incentives and loan guarantees to stimulate the economy and the production of renewable energy. After the explosion and sinking of the Deepwater Horizon drilling platform in the Gulf of Mexico in April 2010, which led to the largest toxic oil spill ever and was considered one of the worst environmental disasters in history, the government promised it would take action to curb the effects of climate change. 5 years later, 195 countries, the US included, signed the Paris Climate Agreement, currently 197. The EPA began action on climate change with the Clean Power Plan, CPP, which required that states meet specific reductions of carbon dioxide emissions from coal and gas-fired power plants. The Obama administration had also halted construction of the Keystone XL and the Dakota Access Pipeline, the latter being less than a mile away from the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation. The administration committed to fighting against air and water pollution, but could not prevent the dramatic lead poisoning in Flint, Michigan. What happened in Flint was a consequence of years of lack of federal, state, and municipal investment and protective regulations to ensure proper drinking water quality in urban areas. Flint had been a declining city that used to be known for its production of automobiles, parts, and accessories. Because of budget cuts, the city shifted the source of its water supply in 2014, did not treat its water properly, and neither repaired nor changed its decaying water infrastructure. Local EPA agencies ignored the early signs of water contamination. This led the 100,000 residents of Flint to be exposed to lead poisoning. The EPA and FEMA declared a federal emergency in 2016. The water crisis ended in December 2020 when the last water pipes were changed, but the health damage to the residents will be long-lasting and may include IQ reduction and Alzheimer's disease. The Flint water crisis underlined the need for massive investments in modern water infrastructure and more protective water quality legislation at the city, state, and federal levels.